All right, well, I just had the most fun trying to pull the DPF and the EGR assembly off the back of the motor, and I wanted to share this tip so that other people that are doing repairs to their DPF or making whatever changes they need to do, so that they can in turn save hours of struggling and shaking their heads and, you know, probably cussing, that kind of stuff. So what I ended up having to do was I ended up pulling the battery tray out. The battery tray you have to actually remove the air filter assembly as well too, which is pretty self-explanatory if you just go slow and look for like where the tabs are, for instance, where they attach, that kind of thing. You've got this part right here which attaches underneath this part. You know, you've got these rubber grommets that allow the whole box to flex because it's attached to the motor, and then you've got various bolts. Do not force anything. So you've got this grommet, you've got that grommet, you've got that bolt, and then the actual support for the battery is underneath. There's 3 bolts. There's one there, one here, one here. And you actually need to know this because when you are changing the transmission fluid, you'll need to actually remove all this because the filter for the transmission is right here, okay? That little thing unthreads, and then there's a cartridge style filter in there that's about yay tall. And you can actually like switch the transmission fluid quite easily with a few things off of YouTube. So I'm gonna actually take you guys over to the pieces I removed because I want you to actually see the location of where this little hidden bolt is, and then I'll show you a trick that actually worked really well for me. Albeit it was painful because I had my arm shoved, my elbow like right here. I had to put a piece over this real sharp piece, and then I had to slide my hand under here and then blindly undo this bolt. Luckily it wasn't very tight. All right. Also, as I do these videos, I'm not going to do any editing or anything, okay? So you're gonna hear it like how it is, how it happened, that kind of thing. All right, so this is what you're gonna see from the bottom of the car once you've pulled the subframe out, the axle, all of that stuff, okay? And what you're gonna see, well, actually this is upside down, sorry. Let's get this facing. So this is what you'll see from the back of the car. All right, got various sensors on it, and you've got these 2 attachment points right here and right here, and then you've got 2 more attachment points right here inside the passenger wheel well, and then you've got one funky little way too difficult to remove bolt that's in there too, and it's a Torx. Anyway, so you get all this undone, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, why isn't, oh, and then a bolt on the top. And you see this one from the top, right here. And you see all this, and you remove it, and then the thing won't come out. And this is what makes everybody mad. So, this right here, on the 2015, is the EGR, the exhaust gas recirculation system. This right here is the bolt from hell that is incredibly difficult to get at. This is actually one, if you want to remove the coolant hoses from the side of the motor and the high pressure pipe from the turbo, and you can get at this one would be a lot easier to remove. I couldn't even see this thing. I didn't know where this was. This is all buried in the back of the motor. There's next to no room. Everything was kind of stuck. You're looking at a ton of problems here, and sorry if I probably turned the camera, but you guys can deal with it, so I apologize. You have to undo these 2 bolts from the bottom of the turbo.
Yeah.
And these are both Torx. And you've got to undo these coolant hoses, and don't try not to damage them because you will need to reuse them. So this one and this one, you're going to bridge those together because that's going to your the hoses, and you're gonna, and I'll show you guys how to crisscross them so that they actually work. But most importantly, you're gonna get one of these two bolts undone. The way I ended up getting this one undone, because if you look at it like this, it's kind of hidden behind the bracket. I made a modified Torx bit. So I'll take you to my toolbox here. We're just walking around my driveway. I did this in my driveway too, by the way. You notice one is shorter. So I cut this one down. This is the standard triple square that you're gonna need for a lot of stuff on the Volkswagen. I don't even have the size on it anymore. I apologize. I beat the crap out of this set, but this is just your standard set. You can get it like an auto parts store. Once I got that bolt loose, it was a real pain to get this back in there to actually turn it undone, or turn it loose and remove it. So what I actually did is I got a standard Torx, which fits more loosely in there, but also grips the teeth. And I put that in there with an extension on it, and I was able to just turn it off by hand. Sorry, going the other way. And then I got that undone. And then I was finally able to wiggle all of this stuff apart, and then wiggle this out, flex the motor around because it's obviously floating, you know, you can pivot it back and forth, and got it out. Now, at the base of this, right there, where you see these two holes are right here, there is a bracket. This guy, right here. You're gonna see that bracket on the back of the motor if you look real close. If you remove the heat shield from the back of the block. Back of the block, it's above the electric water pump. And once you do that, you can actually mount up the new cooling hose, or coolant, stainless steel coolant hose from Stevenson Tuning, and redirect your coolant. And that allows you to bypass all this nonsense on there too when you're building your off-road vehicle. So yeah, that's really it. I really wanted people to see that because it is really hard to see. It is buried under there. Like I said, I could not get it from the back of the motor. I had to fish at it from the front, from the side, from the driver's side. Okay, so now on to the next tip here that Stevenson Tuning told me. Okay, so there is an exhaust gas temperature sensor that is on the bottom of the turbo here, and there are two places where it can connect. It can either connect over here, and this is the one that you're going to leave in place. So it's either, you could either connect it over here, or you can connect it right here. And this is where you want to connect it, or you're going to get an error message and problems with how the motor runs. So you have various attachments, various harness connectors here. And so this is where you want to connect it. Again, not here. You want to connect it over here. Those are the big things. When you're putting your lambda sensor in, you're using the one with the gray wire, and then you're going to plug that one in over here though, unless I'm mistaken. But yeah, just a second here. I actually haven't plugged it in yet, so it's either here or it's over here. It's one of the others. You'll figure it out, and I believe there's only one place that can go. So those were the major hurdles. Getting the subframe back in is not fun. I did have to get, you know, some friends' help to do that as well too. And you know, now it's in all the. And just a simple tip: when you're putting stuff back together, where you have multiple things, like you've got the steering rack, the subframe, the sway bar and stuff like that, you want to keep tighten everything up, but don't tighten. Like tighten it up so it stays in place, and then make sure you've got all of your bolts aligned, everything connected, that kind of thing. Actually, as I go, I keep thinking of other things that I need to do here too. So these two lines, they've obviously been disconnected on this little off-road racer, and I'm going to plug both of these. Then there is this little guy right here. Not sure what I'm going to do with it. It plugs into this sensor that's down in, or this assembly that's down in here. Looks to be a fuel pressure regulator setup. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys know what it is, just leave it in the comments. I haven't actually looked into it too hard. And oh, one other thing that you guys are gonna want to know. Right, we're on the driver's side here. This is the subframe. Comes up, it's mounted to the bottom of the frame right here. Right in here, there's a greasy, dirty, hidden little Torx right here, and you can only do it up or undo it when the subframe is dropped about an inch, because there's no room to get in there. See what I mean? It's very shallow. So I at least couldn't figure out a way to get in there. Maybe let's check from the top. See what I mean? So I can't even see it from up here. It's hidden way down in there. So I dropped the subframe down a couple of inches, and then I got my Torx out and undid it the rest of the way. Then when I was reassembling it, I attached the subframe with a couple of bolts, but I let it hang down, you know, an extra couple of inches, and I reattached that before I went about like putting the rest of the stuff together on the subframe. Yeah, it's a fun job. I think I'm 16 hours into this. I'm working on my driveway. I don't have a lift, and I don't have any other help, and I've never done this job before. But you know, it is something that you can do. I do have an extensive amount of tools. The Torx, that triple square Torx, you're going to want to get a set of those if you own a Volkswagen. You absolutely need to have those, and then you've got to have a way of driving them. I went to this guy right here. This is the Milwaukee, what is it now? The 2767-20, and this puppy can hammer. You have to have this. You want to do this job, you have to have this, because you've got to be able to undo things like that. And that nasty little beep right there is insane. You're gonna have to have somebody step on the brakes, because if that thing is wiggling back and forth at all, you will not be able to get it undone. It is done up, I don't know, with like 1,500 foot-pounds of torque or something like that. It's ridiculously difficult to get. Do not injure yourself doing that. All right, guys, I think that's it. If you have any other questions, or you want to see the photos or something like that, just send me an email, and I'll, you know, through the YouTube channel. All right, guys, have a great one. Thanks for following along. I really, really hope this helps.